A warm welcome to everyone committed to changing the position and the power and the pay of businesswomen in every issue. WBC is thrilled to now have 44 organization partners, and we have 10 of the strongest on this executive call today. There is not only passion, but commitment to drive change. And this call is the group on entrepreneurship and capital. And this nation should watch out for the collaboration of these organizations. We will say that on Monday, we have a partners call for our 9 initiatives. And we also want to say that in kinship with the Entrepreneurship and Capital Group, Alex Jung, with Monica Smiley's support, has the Capital Initiative. So we're thrilled with that. And you'll see announcement after announcement of the good news. We're going slowly, but women are now 8.4% of women CEOs, with the first Black woman, Roz Brewer, being named for Walgreens. And we keep announcing. Our board reports show that we've been about 41% women for the first time in history, and a third of those women of color on public boards. But let's focus today on entrepreneurship and capital. And let's say thank you first to Alex Jung. Alex is treasurer of WBC on our board, but she has been chairman and has been in the capital field and now entrepreneur extraordinaire for her leadership. And to Monica Smiley for everything you've done for decades, Monica, in bringing all the women entrepreneurship groups together. And can we all salute the magazine that we all work so hard to support? Within that 50 pages to 75 pages of the issue overall. And Monica, thank you. And to Judee vonSeldeneck on the cover of the magazine, but is a mentor to many of us with her entrepreneurship tendencies to grow and to support capital. So for that, we turn this over to Alex and Monica and say, thank you for ensuring that we will never stop making sure that entrepreneurship grows, and with those, access to capital, and with that, our sisterhood of women of color. Alex, Monica?
Well, thank you, Edie. I think we're thrilled to have this panel together. Monica and I have really enjoyed working to grow this kinship and collaboration, and I think we're excited to have Judee kind of kick us off with some comments around her leadership in this area, both historically and going forward. And so I think we'll pass it to Judee before we start our panels.
Well, thank you all. It's wonderful to be here, and I want to thank my dear friend Edie for having me here today. She and I go way back as women entrepreneurs, but it's great to see such an amazing group of women, and nothing I'd rather spend my time doing than talking to powerful women. It gets me all juiced up, so I'm anxious to hear what all of you have to say. But, you know, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about that quote from Hillary Clinton back in 1996, I think it was, when she said, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think about that, how everybody refers to that now, you know, in all sorts of different endeavors that are going on. I mean, leave it to women to come up with the most powerful slogans. Everybody, if I hear, let's lean in together one more time, I'm going to scream. But thanks to Sheryl Sandberg, that's sort of, you know, everybody, you know, mantra. But in any event, I just, when I started in my business 45 years ago as a woman, if I had tried to borrow money, and they would have laughed me right out of the bank. I mean, there was just, really, really not much of an opportunity to do that. And then you fast forward to today, and in our company, like a year before this COVID, we went out and we have an executive search firm, and we were in the top 10, we were probably 10th or something. And we went out into the marketplace, and within 9 months, we were able to get some big time venture capital money to support us. And we went into the market and we acquired 3 search firms, which tripled our revenue. And by the way, they were all started by women. And today we're like the 4th or 5th largest retained executive search firm in the world, founded by a woman and CEO, African-American gentleman. And so, it just shows you how much things have changed and how great it is for all of us today, and how much attention that, the private equity venture capital people are paying to women organizations, and for a lot of reasons. But they're not going to do anything where they don't think it's going to be a safe investment where they're going to get a decent return. But today, they're welcoming women's businesses and organizations with open arms to have an opportunity to be partners and to provide capital. And I think it's an amazing time. And I know, personally, I'm in a situation where I've been so blessed to have gotten into this particular profession that I got into, that I'm going to start a fund that's going to help women entrepreneurs, and focusing really initially here in Philadelphia, and then hopefully spreading, but women that have gone out and have sort of, made that first investment and need help for the next tranche, and, no strings attached. And I don't think I've ever been more excited about anything in my entire life, because there's so many, great startup entrepreneurial kinds of endeavors that are underway. And thanks to this wonderful magazine and all of you and Monica and Edie, the group that you all have been able to pull together, it's just a great base and a great, group of folks where we, back in the early days, we women, we took care of each other, and it's still that way. In fact, it's even more so today, and it warms my heart. So thank you for having me in your village, and look forward to the conversation.
Great, Judee. Thanks for that. We're looking forward to seeing your great portfolio build over time. I'm going to pass it to Monica, who's going to lead us in the first panel. Monica, all yours.
Thanks, Alex. And thank you, Judee, for your comments. It really was an honor to present your story. So remarkable, so inspiring. Just amazing legacy, Judee, that you built. And we're so excited about the fund that you're starting, and your heart is in the right place, and you're just doing all the right things. So thank you. We all appreciate you so very much. Well, I'm delighted to have a panel to introduce here today that represents 4 just incredible organizations, real powerhouses in the women's business community. We have 4 leaders today, and I'm just going to very quickly introduce them, and then I'm going to ask each of them to just take another minute or so to give the group a snapshot of your organization. I think we have quite a diversified mix of people on the call, and I think many people on the call know your organizations, but I think there's a chance there may be some that don't. So welcome to all of you. So first of all, we have Pamela Prince-Eason, who is the president and CEO of WBENC. That's the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Then we have Camille Burns, who is the CEO of the Women Presidents Organization, the WPO. We have Kimber Maderazzo, who is the chairman of the board of C200 and also the founder of her own company, Millie Rose. And then we have Jacqueline Hayes, who is the principal and chief marketing strategist for her company in Nashville, Crayons and Markers. And she is representing the National Association of Women Business Owners. She's on the NAWBO board of directors. So welcome to all 4 of you. And Pam, would you like to start us off with just a quick introduction to WBENC?
Oh, sure, I'll be happy to. So for those of you who are just becoming entrepreneurs, you may not realize that with the panel you go through today, you're going to be meeting some of the most influential organizations that will help to make you successful over time. So if you put your time into these organizations, you will find that you will be extremely successful at what you do. So I happen to have one of those organizations. I have the good fortune of being the president and CEO of WBENC, which is the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. And we started off really with our original mission being around certifying women-owned businesses. So ensuring that if a woman was claiming to be a woman-owned business, that it was 51% or more owned, operated, and controlled by a woman. We have since learned in all of our great work with the government and with corporations and with women-owned businesses that in addition to that, we need to really take a important role in developing those businesses, ensuring that opportunities are made available from corporations and from government entities, and really taking the opportunity to ensure that women who are involved in our organization really understand how to effectively do business in corporate America and in the government. So we do a lot around that piece of development. The new piece of what we're really focusing on happened due to COVID, where we really needed to look back at everything we did and how we did it. And we realized that the amount of reserves that each of our women-owned businesses have can't be sustainable over a long-term pandemic. And therefore, we felt like that we want to still be supportive of all the great partner organizations that we have that ensure there's access to money available for you when you need it. But we felt that we had a role to play in that we had not yet done. So we certainly aren't looking to really compete with anyone who's got funds available for you, but we're looking for other ways to make sure funds are available, especially when something like a pandemic occurs. And so I'll be talking about that later. It's my great honor to be here with you, and I hope that you'll really enjoy our panel. Thanks, Monica.
Thanks so much, Pam. Camille, would you like to go next?
Of course. Thanks so much, Monica. And I also just want to acknowledge Edie and Alex for putting this incredible group of women together. I love this initiative, and it really warms my heart to be with all of these incredible women doing incredible things. So the WPO Women Presidents Organization, for those of you who don't know, we're a peer learning organization for women CEOs and presidents of multi-million-dollar companies. We have 2,000 members in about 140 chapters around the globe, and our chapters get together. It's like having a board of advisors of other successful women business owners get together every month and really work on your business. And as an organization as well, we're working on providing continued education for our members that is really applicable to the second stage entrepreneur, to the women that have hit that level and are really looking to continue to grow. So very happy to be here.
Okay, thanks so much, Camille. Kimber, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Monica. I am too pleased to be here with all of you. I am from C200. C200 is a charitable 501c3 organization that is a membership organization that advances women business owners and leaders. We are an organization built of corporate executives and entrepreneurs. It's about 50-50. And we have many dedicated programs into helping entrepreneurs and helping to advance them. A lot of our members themselves have started their own funds because it's such an important purpose and mission for them. And some of them are some of the largest funds. And they're really dedicating capital to women intentionally and making sure that how can we really get this access to capital out to women. And it's great to see that. And I'll talk more a little bit about some of the programs that we're doing at C200 too. So thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Kimber. Jackie, can you tell us a little about NAWBO?
Absolutely. And thank you again, Monica and Edie. This is fantastic. So the National Association of Women Business Owners is one of the largest dues-based organizations representing the interests of all women entrepreneurs across all industries. And we're in chapters across the country. Our mission is to propel women business owners into greater levels of economic, social, and political spheres of power worldwide by creating lifetime value for our members. We've just celebrated 45 years of impact. And so we're continuing to advocate for women and making sure our members have the things that they need to grow their businesses.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Well, let's start by taking a quick look at, from each of your organization's vantage points, what is the greatest challenge that you think that women entrepreneurs are facing as they seek the capital that they need to grow or scale their companies? And we can just go in the same order if that's okay. Pam, do you want to start us off?
Okay, I guess I would answer with a twofold answer to that. I think that what we're learning is that many leaders of businesses, entrepreneurial businesses, don't have full financial acumen to really understand their financials as strongly as we would like for them to. And I do a lot of work directly with our women-owned businesses and have really been seeing that gap grow, especially during the time of COVID, when you need to have a rapid response to a change. And so I think there's that piece of understanding your need and what you should do to change. So it kind of leads to the action as well. But also then just access to the funds. So it warms my heart when I hear Kimber and Judee and various people talk about these additional funds that can be available, because I do think women helping women is one of the best things that can happen. And so we care about the funds getting to other women-owned businesses. And so I think that actually access to capital is the second part of my answer. So the understanding your financials as well as accessing the capital.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. Camille?
One thing that I think is a challenge that I hear from our members regularly is really just knowing what opportunities are out there, right? I think that the communication, quite frankly, is disjointed, and there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of organizations out there. And I think different opportunities are right for different people, right? So it's knowing what's out there, what's available, and really having that information. I find that a lot of women are learning from each other, whether it's something through a bank, if there's an opportunity through a bank, or there's organizations like Golden Seed, Springboard, other organizations like that. And if we could figure out a way, and that's, I think what's so great about this organization is that if we can continue to figure out how as organizations to aggregate the opportunities out there and promote all of the opportunities that are available, I think that would be extremely helpful for women business owners. I found last year that a lot of our members going through the PPP process and just looking for funds really were calling on each other. And within the chapters and within message boards, where are you going? What are you doing? And I think that is huge and that's very important. But I think as a community, if we can continue to figure out how to make sure they know what's out there and what opportunities are available, I think that will help all the women entrepreneurs.
That's excellent. Thanks, Camille. And of course, one of the reasons we wanted to all work together on this last issue of the magazine to provide just a ton of resources that can be shared. We hope people will really utilize that. Kimber, would you like to add something?
Absolutely, because capital is a challenge for these entrepreneurs. But one of the biggest issues is, what do they do with the capital when they get it, and how is that going to help them scale? So what we do at C200 is really look at how we can give them the talent and the mentorship to be able to help them with the plans, to be able to put something together, because it's not just, again, the capital, it's what are they going to use it for? And I think if we can help women design programs and opportunities and give them the opportunities, we can then help them get the funds. And I think that's something we all need to look at.
Excellent. Jackie, what are you seeing with the NAWBO membership in terms of?
Very, very similar to everyone else, and so it's the access to capital, but also as an entrepreneur myself, it's a shift in mindset for the woman in business to take the capital. And so we just have so many different things built around that. And so we have to be able to get to the capital and also understand what those things mean. I was just on a call yesterday with some high potential business owners, and there was a speaker, and she was talking about how much money she'd raised. She'd raised over $2 million, but the terms that she was using, one of the bold women, she raised her hand and she's like, "This is so great, but I have no idea what you're talking about." She couldn't comprehend the terms. And so it's education to make sure we understand what our options are, but it's also educating us on what these programs are, what they mean, how can we distill them down to make them manageable for us to deploy when ready.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about constructive steps that we think need to be taken to help eliminate some of the barriers that exist. Would anybody like to comment on that? Again, Jackie, I don't mean to keep you last here. We can switch things up, but anybody like to share some thoughts about additional constructive steps that you think could be taken to help eliminate some of the barriers to accessing capital? Pam?
Sure, Monica, I'll be happy to go. As a matter of fact, I would refer all of you to Monica's wonderful magazine. You should read it all the time, but especially the one just published. That's Enterprising Women, and we'll make sure that the connection to that is listed in the chat for you so that all of you will have access to it. Many of us have contributed some of our, very tactical pieces of information that you can use. And so I'll talk to mine in particular, but I think there's many more listed in the magazine. So I want to make sure you don't miss those as well. If you go to page 21 on the magazine, when you get there, you'll get to hear about WBENC's LIFT program. This actually was a major pivot for us, where we recognized that our way to lift women that was different than the way we have been lifting them in the past is to ensure that we fill this gap you just heard Camille and Jackie and Kimber and I talk about, which is that there is a need for some education. There is a need for understanding what it means when you get a certain offer of money. There's a need to understand your financials. There's a need to know where to get this money and to connect. And so for us, we developed with 4 major banks connections so that we could have a lift brought to you. I'll use by Bank of America because they are my board chair. So I'll use them as the first example, but there's actually a lift by Wells Fargo, by JP Morgan Chase, and by Capital One as well. And what that does is the L in the word lift is about learn. Right? So it's exactly what we just said about what it is that we need to learn in order to be effective at finding these opportunities that are out there, as well as things like understanding your own financials so that when you go to ask for money and someone asks you a question about how you might use it or why you think you need it, you have the opportunity to be able to answer that in an appropriate way. So we have a huge part of this new Financial Center of Excellence that has input from various views and various banking institutions, as well as leaders in women-owned businesses who are doing what Kimber said about offering money, making sure that there's learning opportunities there for you so you feel prepared as you go after capital. The second part is the interconnect. The I in LIFT is interconnecting, and it's really about our program and making sure that you are aware of everything that we are aware of, and that we're connecting you with business opportunities. If there's a gap in your ability to meet those business opportunities, that we can also look for a way to close that gap with some of the interconnections we can do. And so whether that's on financial institution connection, or it's the ability to work with a corporation to loosen some terms or something that would make it easier for you, have better payment terms, that sort of stuff, that's really what our interconnect is all about. Fuel is probably the biggest change for us. We actually were able to give away $160,000 worth of grants last year. The largest one was $20,000. The smallest ones were $5,000. We were able to do that because of the generous participation of our corporate members. And we did that all in the form of direct grant funding. We will change up how we fuel women-owned businesses as we learn more and as we partner with some of the players that are here on the panel with me. But currently we're just looking for ways to ensure that when you come across hard times and there isn't something available to you, that we may be able to find a way to fulfill a short-term need. And then finally in the lift, it's thriving, right? We want each one of your businesses to thrive. We want you to have as successful of a program as you can. So we want ongoing mentoring in place. We want ongoing education in place. We want to have the ability to counsel when you need counseling. It doesn't have to be on an ongoing basis. And so in that way, we're really working on your long-term strategic growth. So in a nutshell, that's what we've got available. And I hope that it will be useful to all of you. We look forward to learning a lot through this and taking your feedback. And so again, check that out in Monica's magazine, Enterprising Women. It's on pages 20 and 21.
Thanks, Pam. That's excellent. We really appreciate your leadership on this issue. Camille, you talked in your magazine article about social capital as well, and I know that's of interest. Can you talk about what WPO is doing to try to eliminate some of the barriers?
Sure, and I'll focus on social capital because I think it's a huge opportunity right there. Relationships are everything, right? And I think it's very important for women entrepreneurs to join organizations like all of the organizations that are on these calls and build these relationships, connect with other entrepreneurs, find other women who have raised capital and talk to them, how they did it, what they learned, what challenges they faced, and what they would do differently. I think building a really strong relationship with your banker is huge. I think we really saw this year that business owners that had strong relationships with their bankers, I think they were able to receive a lot of support in 2020. And I think there were businesses scrambling who didn't have those kind of relationships. So I think taking the time to build those relationships is extremely important. I think also build relationships with investors and really try to understand what are investors looking for. Try to get in the mind of investors, because I think with all of these relationships, having the conversations and really taking the deep dive to understand what is out there and what people are doing and what people do differently, I think it's extremely important. So I think social capital is a huge part of actual access to financial capital. And I would just encourage everyone on this call to get involved and meet as many people as you can. That will just help you grow your business. And I also just want to applaud Pam and WBENC for everything they're doing. It's such an incredible program. And I really think that it's a program that's really addressing all of these challenges and barriers. So Pam, just congratulations to you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Camille. Kimber, I know C200 has some initiatives. Can you share a little more information?
Sure. At C200, we have two programs dedicated to entrepreneurs. The first one is our Protege program, where we take women business owners who have company sizes between $5 and $20 million, and we actually give them industry support. So we match them up with a C200 member that is in their same industry. And we've seen incredible results from it. Some of the companies have almost doubled and tripled within a 12-month time frame. So like Pam has shared, some of it is even talking about financial acumen, teaching them P&L, what their P&L is, if their business is even profitable. We've gotten them to the point where they can raise capital. We've even opened up doors for them in their same industry to make sure that we can expand and grow their business quickly. So that's our Protege program. The other one we just did this past year, which we launched as a champion program, where we took a $500,000 grant. Most of the funds were raised from our members, and we actually deployed it to women of color and in connection with Babson College. And we're actually educating 15 women in a program, a lengthy program, about 8 months, and they each get a $25,000 grant. And through that time, we will work out a business plan on how they'll use that capital in their business. And it's something that is going to be an ongoing program for C200. It's something that we really feel was important, and especially during this time. And we did it for women-owned businesses that were much smaller than we typically do, like in our Protege program. So we started with even $250,000 business up into $1 million, $1.2 million, because those are the ones that are suffering the most right now and really can't get capital, and also don't have the human capital to be able to get those connections and really scale their businesses.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kimber. And Jackie, I know NAWBO spends a lot of attention on education and advocacy. Can you share some thoughts about what NAWBO is doing to help their members eliminate some of the barriers?
Absolutely, Monica. And well, as you know, NAWBO has been advocating for grants and government incentives for women-owned businesses to help them raise the capital that they need and to hire. And so one thing that we want lawmakers to understand is that you really have to build programs that are catered toward women and minorities, because there's a cultural nuance that you have to take into account here. There are things that take place that you have to be sensitive of. And you also have to look at small business is one thing, micro business is is another. And so ensuring our lawmakers truly understand the cultural nuances within our community, within the WBO community, and minority-owned businesses, and the specific needs within those demographics, that's what we're pushing lawmakers to do, and to take those things into consideration as they are putting things out on the floor.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. Lorena is cautioning us on the time. I think we're at 2:33, so we're going to wrap. Wonderful panel. This is, I think, just a teaser. Do take a look at the magazine, and each of these organizations wrote wonderful pieces that go into a little more detail, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it back over to Alex.
All right, thank you. What a great set of challenges and solutions you guys have all laid out for us. And we, we wanted to show two different perspectives in this call, because people from the entrepreneurship groups really feel challenged by some of the things that we've been talking about, and that access to capital. On the other hand, we know of some real leading capital and investment firms that have been focused on funding these types of businesses, and the number of those firms have grown tremendously over the last year and continue to grow. And so we thought it would be helpful to turn to the capital organizations. And what I'm thrilled about this panel is these are leaders and pioneers of having investment dollars focused on growing and scaling and starting women-owned businesses. These are not new organizations. They have been working towards this for some of them decades. And certainly have this progress that has been made is in large part to some of the leadership of some of the panelists we have here. Certainly the media has put more and more attention on this and invest in the investment landscape in the venture world. And hopefully that moves towards the private equity and institutional world a little bit more faster. I kind of wear two hats here. So just as a quick introduction, I'm going to ask each of our great panelists to introduce themselves. I sit obviously as one of the founding board members of the WBC with a passion around how capital can drive change and how capital creates accountability. And capital sits in two of our initiatives. One is this with respect to how do we get more capital to women-owned businesses to help them grow and scale their businesses. The second is how to engage with the fact that over 98% of institutional capital under management is run by white males, effectively, 97, 98%. We have a long way to go to actually control the capital allocation in our economy. So after 30 years as one of the few investors and partners in places like Goldman and Oak Hill, running kind of several billions of dollars, I took the step not only to get very active in WBC, but also to step down as a partner at Oak Hill Advisors, a north of $40 billion firm, and actually establish a firm where diversity of the investment team is a core tenet that leverages the diverse talent that we have that is not reaching their potential, and serves as an incubator for future diverse investment talent. And naturally, diverse investment teams, a lot of people are going to talk about this today, diverse investment teams tend to have more diverse portfolios and tend to actually allocate capital very differently in their portfolio companies than non-diverse investment teams. And so I sit with kind of two hats as capital, trying to allocate and grow businesses that have been underserved, whether they be women-owned or diverse-owned, as well as leading this discussion, talking about the perspective of the capital group. So I'm thrilled to let each of the panelists here introduce themselves. I'm going to go in order of my screen, so forgive if it's in a different order. And I'm going to start with Kate Mitchell, who's representing PEWIN in addition to her work with Venture Forward. Kate, why don't you lead us off with an intro?
Sure. Alex, thank you. And it is so great to see allocators of the capital that goes into general partners, that goes into entrepreneurs. That linkage of the flow of capital is so critical, I think all of us believe. PEWIN, it's Private Equity Women Investor Network. I'm co-CEO there. We were founded in 2008 to really focus on retain, elevating, and empower senior women, because all of us know, at the entry level in, again, the capital allocator world, you find more women. And as you get to the decision makers and the general partners and ultimately the owners of the firms, those numbers fall off significantly. And that has an impact on female founders who get not only funded by those women, but funded by the male partners of those women who see that success can wear a dress. That I think it just changes mindsets for everybody in the industry. We're 700 members around the globe, and we are both general partners from private equity to venture capital and limited partners. Again, those capital allocators like Alex, which I think is incredibly, incredibly important, and who are increasingly asking us as venture capitalists, tell me about the diversity in your firm. I think that's really an important message to begin. And then tell me about the diversity in your portfolio. So the good news for all of you out in the audience, there's pressure coming from the Alexes and the ultimate sources of capital in our business. I have some statistics, Alex. I think I can go through those later as we open this up, but thank you for having us, and thanks for WBC for doing this.
Great. Vicki, why don't you, or Victoria, I should say, because we have two Vickies. Victoria from Astia, why don't you do your...
Sure. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on this panel with such amazing women. So I am managing director at Astia, and Astia has been around for over 20 years, always with the mission to level the investment playing field for women entrepreneurs, inclusive teams that include women. We began as an incubator, evolved into an accelerator, and then in 2013 launched investment activity. And that's really our focus now, is moving capital into the companies with women leaders. We have three areas that we focus. One is a direct investor network, so an angel, Astia Angels, where individuals are making their own investment decisions from companies that we have sourced and screened for them. The second area is a venture fund. We are raising a Series A, Series B venture fund to invest in companies with women leaders. And then the third area is a program called Astia Edge, which is a donor advised fund that is specifically geared towards investing into companies with Black or Latina woman CEO at the seed stage. So those are the three areas of focus, and I'm very happy to be here.
Great, Victoria. Anna from Springboard, you're next.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Anna. I'm Vice President of Community and Partnerships for Springboard Enterprises. My personal mission is to both get more women businesses funded and also more women elected to public office. And so while my background in politics took me to DC, I came across Springboard and have been running community for the last 6 years and managing our network of 819 alumni who have been through our programs over the years. But similar to Astia, we've been around over 20 years now, running programs.
We share a founder.
We do. We continue to run programs for women-led tech and healthcare companies. Our primary programs right now is our Health Innovation Hub, Tech Innovation Hub, and our New York Fashion Tech Lab. I also run our Dolphin Tank pitch program, and Springboard focuses on connecting our entrepreneurs to each other, to external resources, positioning them as thought leaders in their space, and really mobilizing the human capital within our network. And it's worked over the last 20 years. We've had 21 IPOs, 200 plus M&As, and 700 plus companies have gotten funded over the last 20 years. So very proud of that and to be a part of this group today. So thank you.
Great. Loretta McCarthy.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. And thank you everyone for having us here. I look at this screen and I think these are all the people we'd like to be having conversations with all the time. So this is a great opportunity. Golden Seeds was founded in 2005. I was a founding member. We started life saying that somebody has got to start getting serious capital to these women or we will never know what they can do. So we've been writing checks, investing typically in equity in companies ever since 2005. We do that through an angel network and also through funds. We are on our fourth fund right now. And we currently have 300 angels all over the country. We are nationwide. We learned along the way that women generally will start businesses where they are, grow businesses where they are, and we want to have feet on the street there locally to find them. We've invested in just over 200 companies. We've invested $140 million, and really importantly, those companies have gone on to raise about $1.5 billion. So we keep track of feeling that we've given them some wind at their back to go forth and raise substantially more capital. Thank you.
Great, Loretta. Vicki, save the best for last there for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm a big fan of all the people in the club here today, and thank you very much, Edie and the team, for having me here. So I'm founder of SheEO. We started about 5.5 years ago in Canada and are now operating this model in 5 countries. The focus for us is really revenue generating entrepreneurs at a fairly early stage. So between 50K and 2 million in revenue, majority women owned, so 51% or more, women led, working on what we call the world's to-do list. So UN SDGs, you're tracking the Sustainable Development Goals, so very purpose-led organizations. 100% of our investors are women who we call activators instead of investors. They're contributing capital into a pooled fund, and it's loaned out at 0% interest to women entrepreneurs who are at that stage. The money's paid back over 5 years into the fund and then loaned out again. So we're building this perpetual rolling fund of capital. And the real sort of special sauce for us is the money is important and interesting. It's roughly $100,000 loans. But the real special part is those hundreds of women who are contributing the capital are now on your team. What do you need? Customers, advisors, experts. It's all on demand in an online community. We have 6,000 activators in our 5 countries, just under 100 companies in our portfolio over the last 5 years that we've invested in, and big plans to get that to $1 billion ASAP, and funding 10,000 entrepreneurs a year forever, and leaving this as a legacy to kick it off. And the one last thing about it that's quite interesting is we view this as sort of a pathway to creating more angel investors. And so this initial contribution that you make, the small amount is $1,100 a year, gets you in the game. You vote, you're part of this whole process. And it's creating a lot of people are now starting to write checks as our ventures grow quickly. They become follow-on investors in those companies because they're already in relationship with them and they've seen them grow. So we're hoping to really help create more of a pipeline of investors to a lot of the people that have spoken before me.
What a great set of programs and institutions. Yet we spent the first half of our call today talking about some of the challenges that you're hearing from the entrepreneurship organizations, and all of you have found really unique ways, very similar in mission, but unique ways to try to combat some of the challenges we spent the beginning part of the call on. Do you think there's a disconnect? I'm going to ask a few of you. I mean, do you think there's a disconnect between, you know, how you're seeing the readiness of the entrepreneur organizations and how we can connect these groups in a more active way? Because certainly there's fantastic programs, and we've got this group of entrepreneurs in these different organizations. Maybe I'll start with Golden Seeds and Springboard to start, just to lead us in this discussion. Do you think there's a disconnect? Do you think we need more communication around the programming? I mean, how can we get these great programs in the hands of the entrepreneurs? Like, where's the piece missing?
I'll just jump in and say, in life in general, there's always an opportunity to do better connections. And I would say that's very true here. I think we do get very involved with kind of running our business in the business. And there's always an opportunity to do a better job coordinating with other organizations, particularly when there are particularly wonderful opportunities to syndicate with each other. It's also really important to remember that this problem of investing in women is not going to be solved only by women or by the groups here that represent women. Mm-hmm. It's critically important for us to help each other with syndicating with other, in our case, other angel groups. We feel that we spent a lot of our time over the years trying to educate other angel groups that have historically been mainly men about the great things that women entrepreneurs are doing, because we want their capital for women. So definitely all of us can do a better job coordinating with each other, and we can learn a lot from each other about how to work with other groups of investors.
Yeah, and I can jump in. I mean, what's been great in terms of where Springboard's position, because we do, typically work with companies that are, have raised their seed, raising their Series A, raising their Series B, that we kind of are that liaison between some of the organizations that spoke before and, fellow women on the call here, where we're, seeing them at the earlier stage. They've been through some networking, and then we get to kind of accelerate them into readiness for larger capital investment. And, something that I'm so happy that Kay and Amy, our founders, have always, been for is collaborations with other women's orgs. I think there's a weird pocket of groups out there that are pretty siloed, that maybe don't want to work with each other, maybe feel like we're competitive in some way. And, our philosophy has always been, the bigger, the greater, whatever it is, so that we're educating a lot of women entrepreneurs. There's so many organizations out there now, they get lost. They don't know where to go. And so by coming to us, they might not be the right fit for Springboard, but having relationships with all these other groups, we can direct them accordingly. And that does better for the whole entire ecosystem. So I agree. And I also agree that partnerships with more male dominated groups is also beneficial, because it opens their pipeline and opens their eyes to venture backable women entrepreneurs out there.
Of course, opening it for anybody else who wants to comment on this.
Sure. I would just add, well, always one can improve. I think we're all doing a pretty good job. I think it's the larger system that's broken. At Astia, we saw over $1 billion of opportunity last year. So I think we're all seeing amazing opportunities. I know Golden Seeds and Springboard see so many companies every year as well. So I think many of the companies are coming to us, but the problem is the larger system is broken, that while we're moving the investment dollars, we need the whole market to change and to move and to come along with us. And there are things about venture that just don't work. For example, that mainly it's a referral kind of industry, that it's all about networks, and networks still divide along gender and race and geography. And so while our groups do a very good job of creating new systems, I think we need to get everyone else to, we need to fix the ecosystem.
Well, interesting, Kate. I mean, I'd love to just have you kind of as a follow-on on this, because PEWIN is really driving senior women and talking about allocation along the capital chain, because obviously the system starts with capital being allocated at the beginning from CIOs, from pension, insurance, and retail and all of that. And until we get parity in all parts of the capital chain, we're going to have great success in pieces of the capital chain, speaking to the programs you guys are all doing, but we need to try to figure out how to take this best practices, and Vicki talking about her, the accelerator, take those kind of best practices and move them up the capital chain. And you guys have been more active, I think, in people in those organizations. So what do you see are the opportunities or challenges from your seat?
Yeah, a couple of things, and I'll throw in a few other organizations I'm involved in, like many of us on this call. By the way, another angel group, Broadway Angels, focusing on early all-female investors, focusing significantly on female entrepreneurs. Number one. Number two, I'm on the board of Silicon Valley Bank, and they have a great report that I suggest people look up called Women in Technology. They've been a long partner of Astia in particular. John Chino was on their board for a while and just thinks the world of them. And I think I'll point to some statistics of theirs in a minute. And I'm also on the former chairman of the National Venture Capital Association, representing all the institutional capital managed by 90+% across the US. And now we have a nonprofit that we founded. We started some work in 2014, now to today, called Venture Forward. It's a nonprofit focused on diversity, including gender, but also a lens with race and ethnicity. But let me quickly give you some quick comments, because this effort of all these people, we need to know, like Judee said at the beginning, we are starting to make a difference. I'll point to one thing in the SVB's report. 2017, 22% of startups had female founders. That's up to 28. And 14% of startups have female CEOs. Now, I mean, it's not enough. We're half the population. We need to go further. That's impressive. When you look at it in the venture, and we're just about to release the third in a series of studies that the NVCA has done, looking at gender and racial and ethnic makeup of investing partners in firms. And unfortunately, we're just about to release it, but I can give you some directional results, which I think are very helpful. Again, it's never enough, but when you make movement, and we've had more movement on gender than we have on race and ethnicity. Of investing professionals in 2016, it was 15% were women. That's now significantly over 20%. At the partner level, it's gone from 11% to over 15%. But Alex, to your point, over 60% of firms still have no female partners. And I think that's to Loretta's point, you've got to get in that network. One of the things that I think is interesting, it relates to what Anna and Victoria are talking about, which is when I looked at some of the statistics that we're just kind of finalizing right now and looked at where are the women, they across the US, they're pretty much equal, except it's weaker in the South. It is somewhat more prevalent in smaller firms than larger. I bet that surprises nobody on this call. What is exciting, which was like, yoo-hoo for all the entrepreneurs and for all of us, because again, thinking about linkage, Alex, there are more female venture capitalists. The earlier you are as an investor, the more women there are in the firm. So seed, because once you've got momentum, and you have a lot of people backing you. So I like the idea, if we're going to skew to more women, let's skew earlier in the pipeline, because that means those female entrepreneurs can actually get momentum and move forward. So I think, that's to me progress. We need to do more. And I think Loretta's right. And I'll leave a piece of advice for entrepreneurs. Often what I say is you do need, if you are, whatever your business is, it could be cybersecurity, it could be a biotech company or a fintech or fashion tech. You should go to the partner that has expertise in your sector. That is going to be more often a man just because there are more of them. But, and if it's a woman, of course, go for it. I mean, you'll find a friendly face. But in your prep, take advantage of the resources here, but pull somebody like us aside and say, can I give you a pitch? Can you walk me through? Because we tend to feel like we need to know more than most men do to declare success and to have confidence walking in a room. Use these networks to actually try on for size so that when you walk into a partners meeting, which is going to be more likely have some, if not all men in it, you know how to deliver it because you've done some initial test runs. We do this, and I'll finish with, at PEWIN, we have something called Pink Light. We focus on trying to get female GPs to start their own funds. I'm excited to say we have backed 23 firms that have raised more than $1 billion and have backed more than 50 female entrepreneurs. So, and we do it by helping them pitch with us. We pink light, we green light films, we pink light firms.
That's fantastic. No, I think it's good for us to sell it. Look, part of the WBC is celebrating the successes that a lot of your tireless work across both panelists. Vicki, I would love, given your grassroots element part of your effort, which is really an interesting slight differentiator. I mean, what comments do you have on this discussion, and how would you kind of wrap this together as you're accelerating a lot of different businesses really from the beginning? Are there any learnings or things that you're focused on more now to comment on some of the other panelists?
Sure. Like I think, the reality of the sort of VC space is, especially during COVID, last year, there was a 48% reduction in the amount of money going to women entrepreneurs through VC from Q2 to Q3 in the US. So like massive backsliding, worst year since 2017 in terms of funding going to women. And I also just like to say out loud, like this, we're talking to like less than 1% of women entrepreneurs who actually need VC. The vast, vast, vast majority of our economies are made up of small and medium-sized business, and debt is kind of what they need with good terms, not these crazy interest rates we have. We're almost in a 0% interest world. So, when we started 5 years ago with 0% interest, people are like, what is that thing? How is that even helping people grow? And now, we're in this world. Denmark announced a 0% 20-year mortgage 2 weeks ago. So the reality of capital is seeing lots of shifts going on in this space and looking at capital really differently. So I think that part is speaking to what small businesses actually are needing. And then if you can get them to really start to grow, we're looking at equity-based investing in next rounds once they get flying. So that's a piece. And then I do really want to call out the Black, Indigenous, women of color piece here. This year, we're about to announce 3 cohorts across Canada, US, and UK. And our range is our cohorts are between 60% and 100% women of color. So, you know, on that level, we're just seeing a massive influx of incredibly solid companies run by Black, Indigenous, and women of color. And so I'm excited to see that shift at a time during COVID when we're going to see a lot of failures. You know, there's projections of 40% of small businesses are going to fall apart this year. And so how can we actually get them the capital they need? So I'm very optimistic on these sort of new approaches, and also, you know, concerned about the backsliding that's happening around capital going to women entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I thank you for making sure we highlight that. I mean, what I think I love about all of the organizations is talking about making sure we're talking about all women, and because the divergence has been so massive, and you obviously have quoted some good stats, bad stats, but data on that. And so I really I salute that and everything that people are doing. You know, I think we could go on for a long time, because these programs really are changing the numbers, and your leadership, both in this panel and the panel before, in trying to solve the problems instead of media likes to talk about the problems. But what I love about the majority of this discussion has been how we tackle them and innovate around them, see the challenge and innovate and be flexible. And so I really do commend all of you, and I'm afraid I have to wrap it up on behalf of Monica and myself on the panels, and of course, Edie and Gwen and Loretta and the rest of the WBC team, who really builds the infrastructure and all the work around our collaborations on our initiatives. And it's their tireless work of keeping us all organized and targeted in our discussion. I took a couple notes during both of the panels, and I think what really was super interesting and what came out was this theme of educate, this theme of communicate, and then finally the theme of collaboration. And you know, that is what the Women's Business Organization, the Women's Business Collaborative, is all about. And it's about collaborating and trying to work together to drive all of our missions forward. And I think this discussion was actually a great representation of bringing the capital providers with the entrepreneurs and how to solve these things together. And if we can, you know, have that kind of programming going forward that educate, communicate, and we used to use the word celebrate, because there is a lot of progress and we are moving, but most importantly, we work on these problems together, leverage each other, leverage best practices. And you know, that really is the focus of the Women's Business Collaborative with respect to capital going forward. Monica's great work and everybody's work on the magazine is one of the first real collaborations, and we're talking about additional programming to do just that. How do we educate the entrepreneurship organization members? How do we help support those programs? And then how do we bring the capital providers and some of these nuggets of advice? And I know you all have much more to share with everybody to educate. And how do we create programming that does that to support your programs? And that's what we're working hard on. And I welcome anybody who's on the call, any of our panelists, to help us brainstorm on this, and more minds together are welcomed. And so please feel free to reach out to me or any of our team to help think through brainstorming additional programming that would be helpful. And I think with that, Monica, Edie, Lorena, you know, I think we'll wrap this up and thank our panelists for their time, their commitment, and their passion around this topic. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Everyone.
We all want to thank Alex, Monica, and thank you, Judee. The nuggets of information and the interconnectivity that Alex was saying, if we bring all these resources together and unite them. So let Alex and Monica know your ideas. I think next Thursday, we're trying to get the entrepreneur and capital ideas all together. The information combined with the deep commitments and the separate programs could be of mine. So Alex, Monica, and all of you, thank you so much. Lorena, you good?
We're good.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Everybody.
Bye.